What are the best catches of all time? So we're talking football again. The most famous catches, the most famous situations, the best. You decide what the term best means. And let's get it going right now with Speedy and Wes. Speedy, start us off. Actually,
right.
Errol, you decide who goes first.
It doesn't matter. Speedy, you go.
King says doesn't matter. Speedy, go first.
Well, I'll start with the obvious one. Our New York Giants, David Tyree. I don't know how that isn't up there with the way that play extension worked. Sticking it to helmet against Rodney Harrison, Hall of Famer. Very tough for a fourth receiver. Like, it's tough to not have that one around the top.
All right, Wes.
I am going to go with the Immaculate Reception, Franco Harris. That it's a highlight that'll just live on forever. The tip ball, and he just kind of went with it. It's a highlight that we will forever see. It impacted the game. He is a Hall of Famer on one of the best teams that has ever taken place. It's just one of the most famous catches.
All right, back to Speedy.
All right, I'll stick with that same era, too. We'll go to the Dallas Cowboys. Drew Pearson catching the game-winning, I don't know if they call it a Hail Mary at that time, but it was a very long pass against a stout Vikings defense. Yeah, and they had a bunch of Hall of Famers in that secondary, too, in the NFC Championship game to advance Dallas to a Super Bowl. That's pretty high magnitude.
All right, and over to Wes.
I'm going to go with one that it has nothing to do with offense. I'm going to say Malcolm Butler, the New England Patriots interception that pretty much locked up the Super Bowl against Seattle. Seattle had everything going for him. It was a really bad call made by the coach, but Butler read that play. He knew exactly what was going to happen, and he went and won the damn Super Bowl with a catch that did not score a touchdown. It actually prevented one.
That's it's hard to argue with that one. Moving back to Speedy.
And I'll go with the other famous catch that won a Super Bowl. Santonio Holmes, his second year in the league, doing it against Arizona, which had a very stout secondary at that time, some big physical corners on that team. And the Steelers, again, young team, big pressure. And
made him a lot of money with the Jets.
Made him a lot of money with the Jets. And that was before really the toe-tapping thing was very popular from these receivers. Now you see receivers do it overnight. But in that moment, for a smaller guy, too, Santonio Holmes definitely deserves a lot.
I would say Amani Toomer made that famous a little bit, the toe tap. Just kind of like.
But it wasn't like across the league where everyone
line.
was trying to do it at that time.
No, but Toomer did it before.
No, I'm not saying nobody did it. I'm
just
saying it wasn't as much as a pop.
I'll be sure.
Last one.
I'll be sure to tell Amani that.
There was a catch, and you New York people will remember this, but there was a catch that Randy Moss made over Darrelle Revis. Jumped up, and it was a one-handed thing, pretty much snatched it out of his face over his head.
Yeah, I remember it.
In just pure Randy Moss fashion. And I will never forget it, and it was incredible, and it was because of who Darrelle Revis was at the time, and Revis Island, and Moss just posted him up and said, I'm still the guy.
All right, King, time to decide who goes on to face you.
It's so close. It's so close, and I like Wes's picks. I do. The interception, I mean, you can argue that too. That is a catch, so you could call that. But I'm going to go with Speedy. I think Speedy made his points, and I like Speedy's first two picks. Those are two memorable. But I mean, how about Odell Beckham's catch? That unbelievable catch. That was one of the greatest catches. Even Garrett Wilson last year, that catch that he made was just ridiculous.
Mike Evans had a really insane one-handed
Mike Evans.
In 2017, he got shellacked by Keanu Neal out of bounds.
I mean, there was a lot of great catches. Antonio Brown made some unbelievable catches over the years.
Calvin Johnson, that Hail Mary with a triple team against the Bengals. That was a crazy one. So.
All right, let's go.
All right, so everybody back in, and we're all now the voters to decide the winner of the last round of this one. I mean, we got to, obviously, when you mention it, the game that I actually was at in this end zone, but a little high up when Odell Beckham made this catch. But we lost that game, so whatever.
Fish,
Still was a great catch.
Fish, I tried getting Brandon Carr on the show, the corner that he beat on that play, and he just kept ghosting us.
Yeah, he did.
I would, too, after famously getting humbled on that play. While getting an interference penalty that they had to decline because it was a touchdown. All right, here we are, last round. I think we got a good topic here, Errol, for this one. And we've got take on the king round. Best offenses of all time. Give me either like the era of the team, or if the team, like the offense, had like a famous nickname, you can go with that as well. Errol, you decide if you want to go first.
I'll go first.
Second.
I'll go first. I'm going to go with, and I forget what year it is, but it was the Randy Moss and Tom Brady New England Patriots. That offense was absolutely unbelievable. Randy Moss, I think at that year had like 25 touchdowns. That's some ridiculous number. Tom Brady threw like 5,000 yards. That offense was absolutely just unstoppable. And everybody was talking about it because I remember the Broncos offense a couple of years before that when they went to the Super Bowl, when Seattle beat them in MetLife before that snowstorm. And everybody's like, this number will never be broken. That was when Peyton Manning broke 50. But this was one of the greatest, if not the greatest, offense of all time. They were unstoppable. Both guys were unstoppable. So I'm going to go with that as my number one.
All right, I'll start with the greatest show on turf. Rams, Isaac Bruce, Torrey Holt, 2 Hall of Famers. Marshall Faulk, probably top 10 running back, probably the best receiving running back or second best receiving running back. You already probably him and LaDainian Tomlinson from scrimmage all time. And then obviously Kurt Warner, what a story he was. Orlando Pace, on the offensive line, future Hall of Famer. And a couple other really good players on that team. Obviously, they only won the one Super Bowl, but they were, for 5 years straight, maybe the best offense in the NFL and one of the best we've ever seen.
Errol.
I'm going to go. I have to go. I just mentioned them. It was the 2013 Denver Broncos, the Peyton Manning Denver Broncos. I mean, they went to the Super Bowl. I remember that. But nevertheless, they broke every single record. I mean, I think they staggering 606 points. I'm just looking at the numbers. Peyton Manning broke the single-season record, passing yards and touchdowns. The Broncos had, I think, 2 or 3 guys that had over 1,000 yards in the season. They were unbelievable. That was probably, arguably, the greatest offense of all time, especially regular season offenses of all time. Peyton Manning and the Denver Broncos 2013. There it is.
All right, I'll go to the Saints in 2011. That offense that was a 34-point-a-game offense. Drew Brees definitely could have been robbed of an MVP of that year. Obviously, the monster running backs that they had Reggie Bush there, Mark Ingram, one of the best offensive lines that year, and statistically speaking was the highest scoring until that Broncos season. I think since the Rams' greatest show on turf offense that year, and was a passing attack that was insane. Luckily, they lost in the playoffs to the 49ers, which helped our Giants fish, because I don't think they were beating the Saints if they played in the NFC Championship game. But that was an insane offense on a team that had no defense, by the way.
All right, Errol.
Oh, I'm kicking things
Last
around.
one.
I'm kicking things everywhere around. You went with the 2000 Rams, right?
In the first one, yep.
The 2000.
Greatest show on turf, yep.
Which one? 2000 or 99?
The greatest.
No, it's supposed to be like an era of it.
So
he has like.
So I can't go with it because both years they were sensational.
He takes all those Rams. You take all the Manning Broncos stuff. And the Brady stuff with the Moss.
I'm gonna go with the John Elway Broncos. That offense was unbelievable. It's arguably one of the underrated. You mentioned a tight end. Well, there's a guy that played for the Giants, and the Giants drafted, and then he went over there to the Broncos and won a couple of Super Bowls, and his son's now one of the star running backs for the San Francisco 49ers. You know who I'm talking about. You guys forgot about him.
McCaffrey.
Yeah, Mr. Ed McCaffrey, who's a Hall of Famer, by the way. I'm gonna go with that team. They had Terrell Davis, one of the fastest, one of the best runners of the 90s, one of the more underrated running backs of the 90s. John Elway's one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. Nobody can argue that. And that offense was so explosive. For how many years was that one of the best offenses in the league? I would go with that Broncos. I guess that Broncos team in the 90s. So I'm going to go Broncos.
I'm going to pay homage to the tight end that Wes mentioned and picked his offense, and that's the early 90s Dallas Cowboys. Obviously, Troy Aikman, Emmitt Smith. That offensive line, arguably the best ever with the 2 guards that they had with Newton and rest in peace Larry Allen, Michael Irvin, Jay Novacek. They won multiple Super Bowls with obviously the early reign of Jerry Jones before he got dumb, but that offense all around.
That defense was pretty damn good.
That defense was very good too.
I mean,
so that's why they didn't get the cut over the Saints.
Lots.
They didn't get the cut over the Saints for that reason.
I could go with all that. Deion Sanders. You could go on and on with that defense.
Your boy Deion Sanders.
I mean,
okay.